Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders are advised that this video may contain images and voices of people who have died.
Well, it's just been absolutely shocking news to wake up to this morning. West Australians receiving this news just over an hour ago, and we have just heard confirmation from Premier Roger Cook, Corrective Services Minister Paul Papalia and Commissioner of Corrective Services Brad Royce. Now, I'm going to step through exactly what we just found out in this press conference and summarise what was said. Premier Roger Cook has confirmed a 17-year-old has died inside the facility overnight. The initial reports found the person unresponsive in his cell, and they have finished the process of notifying the next of kin. That has just been completed. The investigation will now commence. And I'll go into more detail about what exactly occurred and how this boy came into this facility. Now, the Commissioner of Corrective Services, Brad Royce, has summarised what happened. He said the 17-year-old boy, who identifies as Aboriginal, came into the care of the facility on the evening of the 27th of August. He then says he went into the intensive supervision unit and there was full monitoring that came in place. Now, he says the boy came into the detention centre intoxicated, so there was more care and healthcare given and clinical support to this boy given the state that he came into. Now, they claimed he was relatively low risk at this point. And yesterday afternoon, they say he went into the general unit after lunch yesterday. They say all throughout the afternoon he was outside of his cell and he returned there in the evening. Now, they then claim he was checked on 10 times by staff last night throughout the evening. They say on the 11th time they came into the cell to check on this young boy, they found him unresponsive. They then breached and came inside his cell with a nurse, and this was just prior to 10 p.m. last night. On that 11th time, the staff came in and they performed CPR. They said the St John ambulance came shortly after. However, he couldn't be revived. Here's Premier Roger Cook explaining what happened.
Clearly, a failure has taken place because someone has lost their life, and we will now undertake the very important task of understanding the circumstances that preceded his death. Banksia Hill is a very complex and challenging environment, and it is a very difficult environment for everyone to work in. And we continue to make sure that we provide the resources and the staffing to make sure that the programs and the safety of the detainees are uppermost in our consideration. And we'll continue to make sure we do that.
So, Courtney, what can you tell us about the facility where the person was being held?
Well, Kath, Banksia Hill Detention Centre is the only youth facility for offenders aged 10 to 17 in Western Australia. There have been huge issues at this facility over the last few years. In October last year, Banksia Hill featured heavily in a royal commission into violence, abuse, neglect and exploitation of people with disability. In fact, Director General Adam Thompson told the Royal Commission Banksia Hill was in a state of emergency last year. He said critical incidents like detainees self-harm, causing damage to cells, escaping from cells, assaulting staff each day was occurring between January and March 2022. In May last year, allegations of sexual misconduct and assault by a number of staff, along with the claim that the controversial Figure 4 restraint was still being used. And again in May last year, a riot at the detention facility with fires lit in accommodation blocks ended in inmates lying on top of the detention facility, and we saw those harrowing images last year of detainees lying on the roof with their hands behind their backs as armed officers moved in on them. As a result of all of these issues at this detention facility, the WA government opened up a wing in Unit 18, men's maximum security prison, Casuarina Prison, to detain some of the most troubled youth who were at this facility. They moved to Unit 18 because of all of these issues. And obviously we know there has been lots of issues at that facility as well. 16-year-old Cleveland Dodd self-harmed and died at that facility last year, now marking, and with this one today, the second youth death in youth to juvenile detention facilities in the last year.
You mentioned that statistic there, Courtney, there. This is the second child to die in youth detention. What has the reaction been so far?
Well, it's the second child to die in less than a year, and we have heard from the government this morning, but we'll be speaking with community members throughout the day to see their reaction. But it's obviously it's horrible news to wake up to. We've just finished the second part of the coronial inquest into 16-year-old Cleveland Dodd's death. The third part is coming up later this year. We're still processing the events of that coronial inquest, and now there's another death. Now, Premier Roger Cook also highlighted, he said there's been a failure taking place and that they will be undertaking the important task of understanding the circumstances of how this occurred. Something else he said that I thought was quite interesting. He said he has more confidence than ever in the way we are managing youth detention. Now, I'm sure many West Australians might be quite shocked to hear that after the news that we did hear this morning and the fact that it has come less than a year after the death of Cleveland Dodd. But Kath, just shocking and upsetting news to hear this morning, and we'll provide you with many more details throughout the day as we have them.
Yeah, absolutely. Courtney Withers, thank you. And if this report has raised any issues for Torres Strait Islander or Aboriginal viewers, you can contact 13 Yarn or 1392 76 or visit the website 13yarn.org.au. And if you or someone you know is experiencing distress, please contact Lifeline on 13 11 14.